sometimes we, rather than trying to add, it's really about optimizing what we have. Are we educating our workforce on what we have? There's a way that you can treat people that will help them feel valued.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our conversation around the future of work, where technology sits in that, and what it takes to build organizations that genuinely support people. So my name is Gabby, and I'll be your host for today's conversation, and I'm joined by Chad Thompson, who brings over 30 years of experience in HR, working his way up the leadership ladder, starting at Chevron before making the jump to work at a high-growth startup as Chief People Officer for LanzaTech, which is a startup focused on the development of clean and pollution-free manufacturing. Chad, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And fun fact, actually, Chad and I may have overlapped when I also lived in Houston, Texas, and had a stint working in the energy space as well. So it's always nice to talk with people who also have been working in the energy corridor down there.
Yep.
Definitely miss the barbecue, but can't have them all. All right, so let's get into it. So I'd love to hear a story about, maybe a moment in your career where you really felt like the employee experience was done right.
Well, I have a couple things that come to mind. One of them is interesting because it actually is around a restructuring and a downsizing that was done. But the way it was done was really what I would call ethical and with a lot of empathy. And so at a point in my career, our then vice president of the business announced a major restructuring. But what was unique about it is that he and his entire direct leadership team and all the employees, about 10,000, were going to be impacted by it. And he got on a plane and went around the world and talked about the why. And he also, described why it would take longer because he wanted to have a process that would be fair and reasonable, and he would give employees multiple chances to compete to stay with the company. And why I think that's important is because you cannot prevent restructurings and potentially downsizing in the world in which we live in today. Businesses are transforming, competition is radical, but there's a way that you can treat people that will help them feel valued. And so even though this company was going through one of the largest restructurings of its history, the way it was done, the care, the pace in which it was done, and the accountability of the leader to be present and to explain the why and to explain what would be happening, I felt was really, really impressive. And what was also interesting is that when we had our employee engagement scores, the other half of the business that was flourishing and doing extremely well had marginally better engagement scores than the side of the business that was being transformed and radically reduced in size. And so that told you that the employees, even though they were experiencing something traumatic, valued the way in which they were being treated.
Wow, that's incredible. I have to say, I've honestly never heard of a RIF being managed in such a way. I think right now there's been some of the loss around how to communicate these things because we have to be willing to make these hard decisions ethically. And I think that's the value of the people organization and why having a strong people organization is so important. So I'm curious to, just switching gears a little bit, the employee benefits piece. So we know that companies pour so many resources into shaping benefits packages from HSAs, FSAs, wellness perks. There's so much that falls beneath that umbrella. And yet so much of these benefits go unused. And I was just curious if you might share what you see as kind of the biggest opportunity to help people get the full value of everything that they have access to as employees of a company.
But I think one of the misunderstood or undervalued elements of compensation and benefits is exactly the benefits. At most days, it's looked at on an annual basis. How are my premiums going to change from year to year? I do think that more and more companies now are having to look at what's the benefit design that will enable me to be more supportive of my employees. And I think there's a lot more curation of specialized benefit packages to suit the reality of the company. For example, in Chicago, our commuter benefits, transit benefits, our workforce demographic in Chicago is different than the demographic in Georgia. But it's really how do we make sure that as we're designing things, we can be as targeted as possible. And then you hit on something. Most employees don't always understand the value of the benefits that they're getting. And so we look at our value in terms of the incremental increase that we get on a monthly basis. However, if you can monetize that value and help your employees understand that, look, there's other benefits. At LanzaTech, we give every employee 8 weeks leave for parental care, if they're going to adopt or are having a baby. Those things are huge value. We frequently don't monetize that value, though, to say, in addition to your $100,000 salary, if you monetize these 8 weeks of time off, that's how much money you're actually being given. I think there's an opportunity to do that. And then your earlier point about HSA, FSA, sometimes every year employees are leaving value on the table and they don't have tools that can help them proactively kind of analyze their spend and realize, hey, I have an extra $100, $500, let me do it. They get caught up. So tools that can help employees do that or can give them more visibility into the total compensation package, help with retention, help with appreciation, and it's also ensures that they utilize those benefits that were designed for them. Because if you don't, then it's a spend that's not actually valuable to retention or to comfort or engagement of the employees.
There's so many times that I've had in-house roles that I had no idea. I had no idea that I had certain stipends or yeah, like wellness benefits. So there's definitely a great opportunity there to essentially allow employees to kind of take advantage of the opportunities that they already have available to them.
And I do think one of my lessons learned in corporate America is that I've worked with leaders that make millions of dollars for the company and leave and have lost millions of dollars for themselves. And to let a stock option expire, and you're like, dude, this is a lot of money. Or you'll have employees that will join a company and don't join the 401, and it's like
Yeah.
free money, and you're not taking advantage. So sometimes rather than trying to add, it's really about optimizing what we have. Are we educating our workforce on what they have? So sometimes rather than trying to add, it's really about optimizing what we have. Are we educating our workforce on what they have? What is it relative to other companies? Because sometimes the grass is green, but as my wife would say, the water bill is higher. So you get green grass, but you pay more to water that grass. So,
That's a
it's helping them appreciate the things that they have and utilizing those things that you're spending money on. Because if you're not, you're actually just adding additional costs that's not being realized or appreciated. So we have benefit fairs. We make sure that we educate them. And I've recently come in contact with Kaylee, a tool that I've looked at and said this actually could be a great solution because it's going to help employees and employers with the better utilization of benefits, which can allow them to engage employees with not necessarily having to increase significantly added new costs to their compensation package.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the whole mission of Kaylee right there is just easing the load that is already so heavy on so many people ops and HR leaders, team members, and just helping employees get the most of their benefits, maximize their benefits. Yeah, and so I'd be curious, right now there's a lot of doom and gloom in the headlines right now. I loved the opening story that you shared, actually. I think it's an amazing way to share the reality of the situation around workforce reductions that we're experiencing on a global scale at so many organizations, but doing it with empathy. I'd kind of love to get your thought on something that you're optimistic about right now as we're moving into the future.
Okay. Well, I think at the core of Business, I think, even though you hear all these headlines about AI and AI is going to destroy jobs, like I tend to be more of an optimist and a slow adopter of things because I do think that sometimes in this particular country we operate in, we get really quick about fads and fear of missing out and everyone's doing it. But I do think that leaders with their executive teams are going to have to still get back to basics around who are we, what do we do, how do we serve our community, how do we grow this business in a way that's compelling, and what's our value proposition for the business, for the communities we serve, and for our employees in particular. And so, we quickly react to different influences, but I think at the core of it, every business is not going to be radically destroyed by AI. And though, I think we'll get that balance right, because I do think that there's four intelligences that any business needs to operate on. We do need the human intelligence. We're still going to always need humans. There is this artificial intelligence now. There is a spiritual intelligence. How do we treat others? How do we connect with a higher purpose? Why am I here? And then, the last intelligence is really around how are we going to leave our communities and impact better. And I think companies are still trying to do all those things. We call it the emotional intelligence, how we connect, how we treat people. So I do think that, yes, the way we incent leaders is to get radically quick decisions and to transform businesses. I do think that we've rushed into some things that are going to cause us to step back and say, okay, how am I going to be an employer of choice? How am I going to create my brand so that even when I change, I do it in a way that people say, yes, this is a great place and I want to still be a part of this. And I also think that we're reaching levels where we're going to have to start reinvesting in developing people again and training and building longer talent benches to ensure that we create the opportunities that we need to grow our businesses. So I'm an optimist. Things happen, the world's in a mess, but companies, they're going to get it right, and especially companies that stay to their core. And then they're going to figure out, with this AI, how do I be more productive? How do I measure productivity? How do I improve individual performance? Right? And I think those two things are where we're really focused right now. And then the third one is going to be how do I create a compelling story about my company that allows people to stay connected to me, not just chasing some new faddish thing, but people having that connection with what I do and why I do what I do. And I say that because even if you think about, return to the office or working remotely, everything has a value for a season. But over a long time, you start to see the downsides of them all. And I think even now we're getting more people coming back to the office because actually we were building these companies where no one was connecting. We were doing hard work, but I didn't feel connected to a higher purpose or mission. So we're going to have to sell some of these things as regrounding us in what we used to do that was meaningful, while at the same time preserving essences of the change that are value added, like some remote work to allow for that better work-life balance. I'm an optimist. The more things
I love
change,
that.
the more they remain the same, but the world gets better if we intentionally focus on what makes us special, what are we going to do to connect with our employee base and our community, and then
Yeah.
ultimately, beyond just making profits, how are we going to build a society where companies create employment, contribute back to community and society? Those are the companies that are going to last.
At the end of the day, we're just going through a collective recalibration as a society. And the ones that have the strong core values are the ones that are going to succeed. Okay, well, to close, I have a few rapid fire questions just to keep
Sure.
things interesting. Okay, no thinking, just quick answers. Number one, most overrated word in HR right now.
AI.
Most overrated word everywhere.
And secondly, engagement. Employees are our most valued resource. People don't act that way, companies don't act that way, so it's clearly not true.
Yeah. Okay, one piece of advice you'd give a brand new people leader on day one.
Focus as much as you can on learning what the business that you're supporting is and building relationships with business leaders that will help you or do HR better. If you don't understand the business, you're not going to be the highest value contributor to the business.
Yep. Relationship building, number one. Okay, third one, a perk or benefit a lot of employees sleep on.
Time off.
Mm. Ooh.
And particularly in America where it's kind of these days viewed or has been in the past as lacking commitment. But I think that our employees are at the risk of burnout. Their lives are transformed personally with all the change that's happening. People need to find ways to get away, disengage, and that's where I think Europe does it dramatically better than the US. I use this example with our French employees. They say we work 35 hours, or you guys work 60, 70 hours. We have $1 million different revenue target. Who was the most productive? Because we got ours done in less time, and you guys took 2 times what we did, and you only made $1 million more. There's a real good productivity conversation. Time off is valuable for recharging the spirit, soul, and the body.
Yeah, oof, I couldn't agree with that more. Okay, and the last one, finish this sentence. You know HR is working when nobody notices blank.
Anything going wrong? Because when things go right, it's the business. When things go wrong, it's HR. So if the business is happy, HR is working. If it's not, then it's HR's fault. So that's why I tell
Yep.
folks, if you ever want to be in human resources, grow thick skin. Because when things go right, you're not going to get the credit for hiring great
Yeah,
people and all these things. The business is going to get the credit. But when you're not hearing complaints, things are going well. Enjoy it.
the
That's the
unsung heroes. All right. And if our audience want to learn more or connect with you, where can they do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn and you can take it from there. Find me on LinkedIn and connect if you want to talk or you want to discuss something in the future. Thank you.
Love it. I think we can exchange notes then, Chad. Well, thank you so much for the time. I loved our conversation.
Thank you, Gabby. You've been a great host. Love the questions. Very provocative and very easy. Appreciate you. Take care.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Have a good one.